health care legislation. It would dramatically reduce the health care cost and provide affordable health care, an affordable health care option for everyone. Courage is required to run for government office, to put yourself out there for others, to publicly address your convictions and values is not for the timid. John Wayne said, "Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway." I have courage. I want your vote to set the precedent that everyone could and should be involved in representing our cities, counties, and state. The framers of our Constitution set term limits to enable all of our involvement in the governmental process. To ensure our republic, we all need to be involved. And I am running for Congress to be a part of the catalyst that sets that interest in motion. You have a vote in who represents you in your district. And I promise to represent you, Oregon, and the United States with courage, conviction, and common sense. I am running to honor a family like yours. Please vote for me.
Our last candidate is Jim Greenfield. He has a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania. He has been a radio talk show host, and he's a manager of commercial and residential real estate investment. Jim Greenfield.
An article in yesterday's Oregonian said that my opponent, Rob Cornilles, is the likely nominee of the Republican Party. Unfortunately for Rob, the Oregonian doesn't get to choose the Republican Party's nominee. Republican voters do. Now, Rob is a very nice, good-looking, pleasant young man, but I don't think he will get much support from Republican voters if they understand what he stands for, because most Republican voters are fiscally conservative, and Rob is not. Rob, first of all, I ran for this office. I was the Republican nominee in 2002. Rob was the Republican nominee in 2010. Rob refused to sign a no new tax pledge that the Americans for Tax Reform put out, and all fiscally conservative candidates signed that pledge. Rob wouldn't sign it. If you want to know why, on his website, he explains that if we pass a balanced budget amendment, it will require severe tax hikes to balance the budget. Now, I, Jim Greenfield, think that you don't balance the budget by raising taxes. You can't fix a spending problem by raising taxes. We didn't get into this fix by having taxes be too low. We got into this problem because our government is spending money out of control. The federal government today spends 25% of GDP. That's the highest level in history. We have a spending problem, not a lack of tax problem. And I will sign the pledge, no new taxes. In fact, I want to cut taxes, and I want to cut spending even more. We have a crisis in America. Now, the national debt, which is now $15 trillion and growing by billions of dollars every day, and both Democrats and Republicans got us into this mess. That's a symptom of the problem. The debt is a symptom of the problem. The problem is excessive spending and government that is way too big. I'm going to give you a couple of statistics that illustrate this point, and this really sums up the problem. Do you know how many people are employed by government in the United States of America today, federal, state, and local level, non-military employees? Anybody know? 19 million. Do you know how many are employed in manufacturing? 11 million. See the problem? You see, society only has, we have finite resources. There's a public sector and a private sector. It's a zero-sum game. If the public sector gets bigger, the private sector shrinks. Now, who creates the wealth? The government bureaucrats create wealth? Who creates wealth? You know, the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Stephen Jobs. These are private sector creative people who create inventions, who create new ideas, who create businesses and hire people. And the government has gotten so big and so oppressive and the taxes are so high that it's crushing our free enterprise system. Now, do you think that by having the government spend another $1 trillion on a quote-unquote stimulus program, do you think it's going to work any better than the last stimulus program worked? It's not going to work. We need the government to get out of the way to cut our tax. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. And people say, well, why are all the corporations moving the jobs overseas? If you're a corporate manager, and it costs you twice as much to hire workers in the United States than it costs to hire them in China or Indonesia, where are you going to go? Of course you're going to go overseas. We need to make a business-friendly environment here. We shouldn't blame China. It's not their fault. Our problems don't originate in Peking. They originate in Washington. American businesses can compete with anyone in the world if the government gets off their backs, lowers their taxes, cuts the regulations. We've got regulations that keep oil companies from drilling oil in America. So we got to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, and our gasoline prices have doubled. We have, government regulations are you know why banks aren't lending? I'm in the real estate business. I know this. Do you know why banks aren't lending? I asked the bankers, how come it's so hard to get a loan? Because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are government agencies, are making the rules, and they're making it impossible for people to get loans. As Milton Friedman said, if the government managed the Sahara Desert in 5 years, we'd run out of sand. So, how much time I got left? Okay, so let me just finish with a quote from a well-known American. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Barack Obama. He said, I do then wish an inviolable preservation of our present Constitution. I am not for transferring all the powers of the states to the general government. I am for a government vigorously frugal and simple, to preserve the people's independence. We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. And this is the tendency of all human governments, till the bulk of society is reduced to be mere automatons of misery, to have no sensibilities left but for sinning and suffering. Then begins indeed the war of all against all. And the forehorse of this frightful team is public debt. Taxation follows that, and in its train, wretchedness and oppression. That was not Barack Obama. It was Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, who understood exactly the problem we're facing today. And we need people in Congress who understand it also, who understand that it's the free enterprise system that creates wealth, that the solution is to cut the government. And there are a lot of politicians who are saying we should balance the budget in 8 or 10 years. We don't have 8 or 10 years. I want to balance the budget now. And that's going to mean cutting. I want to get rid of entire agencies that are damaging our economy, the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services. We can get rid of all these agencies. We don't need them. We didn't used to have them. And our country used to be the fastest growing economy. It used to be the United States that grew at 11% a year, not China. And that's when the government was very small, 3% of GDP. We can go back to that. So if you agree with this, my name is Jim Greenfield, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Forest South for a member. Traditionally, newcomers in Congress are to be like that red-headed stepchild, to be seen and not heard. My question to you, how do you propose to make your voice heard in the caucuses and in your own caucus?
Why don't you come up one at a time? Why don't you start, DR? And we'll do it from here. 1 minute.
In my history, working on governmental contracts in the construction business, you go in with a plan. You have a plan for whatever decisions that you're asked to make. I would love to be on the budget committee or be affiliated with the budget committee, because a budget means having so much money, paying your bills, and then deciding what you're going to do with what's left over. A budget is not just giving someone $1 trillion and finding a way to spend it. So that is a very important issue as far as I'm concerned. If we can fix the money situation where we get more money in our communities, or the money actually stays in our communities and does not go to Washington. Money should not be filtered through Washington. There's too many hands and there's too much temptation. We need to keep as much money as we have in our state, but more so in our communities. And that's what I would be fighting for. My major concern is about the money and not wasting any money. I don't waste money. I pay my bills. I've always paid my debt. And with the extra money, we decide what we're going to do with it as a family, whether it's save it, invest it, or go out to dinner. Going out to dinner is very important to my family because we feel that if we support a restaurant, that restaurant's going to be there when we want to use it. And if we decide to cut out all the extras, it cuts out all the services that we enjoy. So we do save money to spend on the local businesses to keep them going. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Horace. I think it's very simple. They have to see you as someone who's a doer and not just a follower. And I've never been a follower in my adult life. I started a business when my industry suggested that our service wasn't needed. We started this business, we've become a leader in our industry, and we have organizations around the country that seek our advice because they obviously value the things that we've done and the things that we will do. They also recognize that I'm someone who stands by my word. I'm someone who, for the last 16 years, has been able to do this, God willing, largely out of our own efforts and the efforts of our employees. I've met payroll for 16 years without missing a month. And that oftentimes means that I have to put my own paycheck in the desk drawer because it would not be responsible to cash it. So I'm not doing this to win a popularity contest. I'm not doing this to try to work my way up a system. I'm doing this because Oregon needs a strong representative who has the ability to advocate for us.
Thank you very much for the question. Okay, anybody who knows me, including my children and Chris Leslie, who met me here, in 2000, will tell you I am anything but a shrinking violet. So I'm not gonna be ignored. I'm going to make certain that everybody understands where I'm coming from and that I will be there to support lower taxes, less government, and a return to our Constitution, and holding all of the other congressmen and women accountable for their vow that they took to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I'm there to try to do whatever I can to slash agencies. I'm in total agreement with Jim. We've got to get rid of the EPA, the Department of Energy. These things are superfluous and should not be part of the federal government. This is the purview of the local. And I'm a big into federalism and states' rights. And our states' rights, think about all the states' rights that have been eliminated by this massive leviathan known as the federal government. Thank you for your time.
Hi, sir, you asked a very good question. Senate and House established seniority and minority. Senator Wyden, seniors. If state of Oregon will nominate me for U.S. Congress, I will not minority. I will fight. I will have same right as who many 35 years destroying our economy. If somebody will resist me, I'm fighter. I'm not follower. I'm leader. Therefore, I will fight with this person. First, I will investigate his corruption, how much money he received or she received from corporation. If needed, I will ask for duel, give